The 8-Minute Devotion is on a 12-week break for the summer. We'll be back with brand new episodes on September 9th. Until then, enjoy this episode from our classic I Am series, first recorded back in 2019. God bless and have a great summer.
Yo, 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 welcome back to the 8-Minute Devotion. So glad you could join us for another episode of the podcast. Today, we're looking at Jesus as the door. Jesus said, I am the door. And this is our last episode on Jesus as the door. And we've seen so far that as the door, he is the door that feeds. Jesus is the door that protects. He is the door that gives life. And then today, Jesus is the door that gives abundance. Jesus is the door that gives abundance. Of course, John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Jesus came that we might have abundant life. And that's what that's what we see is that Jesus as the door, he doesn't come to give us just a little bit. Jesus comes to give us abundance. I've always had sort of something that bothered me, and it's a trivial thing. But have you ever noticed when you get a candy bar, when they sell the little tiny candy bars, the little tiny Snickers or the tiny pack of M&Ms that only has like 5 M&Ms inside, what do they call that? They call that the fun size. The fun size is the little tiny pack. It's the one where you only get 2 Starburst. It's the one where you only get the one tiny mouthful of the Snickers bar. I've never understood that. That size, the little tiny one, that shouldn't be called the fun size. No, they have the king size candy bars. They have the king size, the big giant ones they call king size. That one should be called the fun size. Because what's so fun about getting just a couple bites of M&Ms? What's so fun about getting the tiny, tiny candy bar? I never understood why they called those fun. I don't want the tiny, tiny blessing. I don't want the tiny. Now, earlier this week, I just talked about junk food and the Lord not leading us to junk food, but still, you get the point. The fun size should be the big one. And when it comes to the blessings of God doesn't want you to give you a tiny, fun size blessing. God wants to give you a king size blessing. Jesus came to give life, and he clarifies life more abundantly. God wants you to overflow with his blessings. He came to give abundance. What does abundance mean? Well, abundance here in John 10:10, it comes from the Greek word perissos, which means to exceeding some number or measure or rank or need. It means over and above, more than is necessary. Another definition, you can say exceeding abundantly or superior extraordinary. So when Jesus says, I came to give life and life more abundantly, he's saying he wants you to have an exceeding life. Not a life where you are grasping for straws. Not a life where you are just trying to get one more little blessing and you're trying so hard to catch the blessing and it's so hard. He came to give you a superior, extraordinary life, an exceeding abundant life. He wants to give you a life that is more than necessary, that you have more of his blessings, more of his favor, even more than is necessary. And that's so wonderful to think about, that Jesus is the door, and he's the door that gives me not just enough to survive. He's the door that gives me abundance. He's the door that gives me more than enough. That's the sort of God we serve. We don't serve a God who gives us just enough to get by. We serve a God who gives us abundance. Psalm 65:11. It's one of my favorite scriptures. Psalm 65:11, talking about the Lord, and it says this: You crown the year with your bounty, your wagon tracks overflow with abundance. And the thought there is of a farmer just overflowing with abundance. His wagon tracks, as he gathers his fruit, as he gathers his harvest, there's just too much to keep in the wagon. His paths overflow with abundance. You see, there is always more than enough with God. And friends, I want to encourage you, live in the abundance of God. Live in the abundance of life, the abundance of joy, the abundance of peace. Live in God's abundance. And sometimes people take this verse and they make it all about riches and how God's going to make you rich, 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 and all of these natural blessings. And That's not the focus of this verse. That's never the focus of the New Testament. Now, it's not to say God can never do it. He may bless you financially. He may bless you with more than enough. And, in many ways in my life, I am not rich in an absolute sense compared to, the first world cultures that I've lived in for much of my life. But still, God has blessed me financially with more than enough. I have more food than I need. I have a bigger house than I absolutely must have. God has blessed me, but still we shouldn't turn this verse primarily into, abundance. So you'll get every new car you want, you'll get a mansion, you'll get only the nicest clothes. No, but we should realize that God wants us to live in his abundance, more peace, more joy, more righteousness, more life. God wants to give you all of these things. You see, his paths overflow. And when you're following God, and when you're walking with him, and when you're in the boat with him, you will come into that abundance. There is always, always, always more than enough with God. Remember the story of the widow woman and Elisha in 2 Kings 4? The woman, her husband had died, and he left her with a large debt. The creditors were going to come and take her 2 sons away to pay off the debt, bring them into slavery. The woman would have been left destitute without her husband, without her sons. The woman went to Elisha, and she asked for his help. If you remember the story, Elisha told the woman, "Go and gather vessels. Gather as many as you can. Gather not a few." And then he told the woman to pour the one little jar of oil she had into all of these other empty vessels. The miracle took place, and as long as there was an empty vessel, the woman poured the oil from the original vessel. The oil kept flowing. The oil did not stop. The oil only stopped flowing when the woman stopped bringing empty jars. And God gave her an abundance. She sold the oil, she paid off her debts, and she was able to keep her sons without them being sold into slavery. You see, there is abundance in God. And if you notice in that story, when did the miracle stop? The miracle did not stop because God ran out of oil. The miracle did not stop because God grew bored. The miracle did not stop because God decided enough is enough. The miracle only stopped when the woman stopped bringing jars, when the woman stopped bringing her empty jars. That shows us God's Spirit is more than enough. God's Spirit is abundant, infinite. God's blessings are infinite. The blessings and abundance only stop when we stop bringing our expectation, when we stop bringing our empty jars, when we stop bringing our faith. So let's have the attitude that, God, I want more of your Spirit. I want more of your favor. I want more of your blessings. I want more of your power. Let's believe God for more, because he is the door that brings abundance. He is the door that brings more than enough. He is the door that provides us all that we need and more for every situation in life. I'm so glad he doesn't give me just enough to survive. He gives me abundance. Jesus is the door. Thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow on the 8-Minute Devotion.
Thank you for listening to the 8-Minute Devotion. We trust you've been encouraged and blessed today. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or by visiting the8minutedevotion.podbean.com. For questions or comments, please email us at the8minutedevotion@gmail.com or visit our Facebook page. We would love to hear from you.